Good evening, everyone, and welcome to the Virginia City Council Chambers. This is a regularly scheduled City Council meeting. We'll call this meeting to order. Today's date is Tuesday, January 24th. Time is 5:30 p.m. We have a full agenda this evening. Pam, would you please take the roll call?
Motley. Friedlieb.
Here.
Paulson.
Here.
Beyondich.
Present.
Johnson.
Here.
Zelli. Huffy.
Here. Would everyone please stand and join me in the Pledge of Allegiance? I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Okay, you all have before you an amended agenda. Item under 3.1, a proclamation to proclaim January as Firefighter Cancer Awareness Month. And I have a proclamation I would like to read on behalf of all of us. Whereas the month of January of each year is designated Firefighter Cancer Awareness Month. Whereas firefighters must possess and be issued the necessary tools and established programs designed to develop life-saving protocols for cancer prevention within their departments. Whereas January is a reminder to the general public and to all the dangers of occupational cancer in the fire service, and a call to the legislatures across the United States to support and establish legislative guidelines to provide financial assistance for firefighters who are diagnosed with this debilitating disease. Whereas firefighter occupational cancer is the leading cause of line-of-duty deaths in the fire service. At the 2022 International Association of Firefighters Fallen Firefighter Memorial, almost 75% of the names added to the wall, 348 out of 469, were members who had died from occupational cancer. Whereas the City of Virginia firefighters designated firefighter Dustin Johnson as the local representative to organize preventive measures and institute protocols to reduce the risk of cancer among the rank and file. Whereas Virginia Fire developed weekly cleaning assignments to each crew to reduce the high concentrations of carcinogens, both in the station house and on the apparatuses. On-scene hood and glove swaps, rotation of contaminated pieces of gear, the introduction of special cleaning supplies designated for post-fire decontamination, showers, and installation of portable air purifiers are initial steps are being taken as preventive measures or that are continued to be evaluated. Annual screening are scheduled each year at a local healthcare clinic in Virginia. Now, therefore, be resolved on behalf of the Mayor and the City Council and the citizens of Virginia, we do hereby declare January 2023 as Firefighter Cancer Awareness Month and pledge to commit the necessary resources to help battle occupational cancer in the fire service. Thank you. Okay, move to item number 4 on the agenda, which is a public forum. This is an opportunity for anyone from the general public to come and speak. Is there anyone in the audience who would like to speak this evening? Seeing none, we'll move to item 5, the consent agenda. The following items will be enacted by one motion unless a councilor or a citizen of the City of Virginia requests that the item be considered separately. Item 5.1 is the approval of corrections of the minutes of the regular meeting that was held on January 10th, 2023, and the special meeting held on January 17th, 2023. Item 5.2 is the adoption of Finance Resolution number 23-002, the schedule of bills. Item 5.3 is approve pay estimate number 9 to Lindsay Enterprises for the police garage repair project in the amount of $14,535. Item 5.4, approve the following travel request. Police Department, 5.4A, John Swenson to attend the Minnesota Junior Officers Association Conference, June 12th through the 14th, 2023 in Duluth, Minnesota, at a cost of $300. Item 5.4B, Noah Burr to attend the on-demand for the Force Science Certification course at a cost of $1,399. Item 5.4C, Chad Nicola to attend the Alex Tech Law Enforcement Job Fair, February 1st to the 2nd, 2023, in Alexandria, Minnesota, at a cost of $177. Item 5.4A for the Fire Department, Jason Kraus to attend the Honor Guard Clinic March 24th through the 26th, 2023 at Camp Ripley at a cost of $75. Public Works, 5.4A. Jesse McIntyre, Mike Twaddle, and Dan Wolf to attend the MPCA Collection and Wastewater Training scheduled for March 27th through the 30th, 2023 in Brooklyn Park, Minnesota at a cost of $2,973 each. Administration, 5.4A. Breed C. Bennis and Pamela Bean to attend the 77th Annual IIMC Conference, May 14th through the 17th, 2023 in Minneapolis at a cost of $1,451.45 each. And finally, item 5.4B under administration, Britt C. Bennis to attend the 26th Annual Duluth and St. Louis Counties Capital Days, February 8th and 9th, 2023 in Duluth at a cost of $159. These are the consent agenda items before the council. Looking for action.
I'll move the consent agenda.
Counselor Johnson moves to approve the consent agenda. Is there support? A support by Counselor Barnzelli. Is there any further discussion? Hearing and seeing none. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye, opposed? Motion carries. Thank you. Item 6, appearances. We have no one scheduled to appear before the council this evening, but again, this is an opportunity for anyone from the audience like to come and speak to the council at this time. Seeing none, we'll move to item 7, unfinished business. Item 7.1, property located at 410 5th Street South. I think there was a hearing held today, and I would defer to our city attorney, Brian Lindsay, for a synopsis of what occurred. Brian?
Thank you, Mayor. We did have a hearing. The hearing was held on January 17th on the city's application for an administrative warrant and then our motion to enforce the order that was put forth by the council. We got through about half of that, and what we did, the court addressed first the application for the administrative warrant. I do note that at the hearing, counsel for Mr. Toman did appear and objected. And so where we left it, right now, the hearings are bifurcated on that, on our motion. Reason being, we need to collect the information from the inspection so that we can present it as part of the hearing on the affirmation of the council's order, that order to correct a raise. And so what's the current status, we are waiting for, at the end of this week, we should receive the brief from Mr. Toman's attorney, and then we're given time till the 31st to provide our brief. And then once that issue is briefed, the judge will make a decision about whether or not to grant the administrative warrant, which would give us access to inspect the property and collect additional information that we would then present at the hearing of the primary merits of the motion, which is on the action on the city's motion.
Thank you, Brian. Mr. Kinsley, you're in the audience. You're the neighbor that's affected by this property, as others are as well. Do you have any questions, comments with respect to the hearing, and any questions for the council and our city attorney?
Thank you, Bruce Kingsley. Yeah, I do have a few questions, Brian. I was in on that hearing. I wasn't able to comment during that hearing. And there were several things said about myself that I didn't really appreciate not being able to respond to. Going forward, so when we get to the 31st now, after this next delay, how quickly is another hearing taking place? We're not going to wait another 160 days for that, are we?
Brian?
Thank you, Mayor. And Mr. Kingsley, no. What I expect will happen is that the court will issue an order that will both rule on the administrative warrants. My gut tells me that the court will grant that administrative warrant. That seemed to be the way that I think it tends, and I think that's what the law would provide. And then in that same order, the court will set an evidentiary hearing on the balance of our motion, where we would, as a city, come in and present evidence about the condition of that property that we would receive from that inspection along with other sources.
And so when that second hearing comes about, am I able to be listed as a witness or somehow speak for that? Or can my attorney I spoke to my attorney, and they would be willing to have either themselves or both of us testify at that hearing.
Mayor, if I may.
Please, Mr. Lindsay.
Thank you. There is a potential that you could be a witness, and essentially what the city is going to present is any evidence relevant to the condition of that property, and specifically with regard to the items that were indicated in its corrective order that was issued. And so we can talk after the meeting about what evidence you may, or testimony you may provide.
Okay. Yeah, like I said, I just felt that most of what he had referred to within that hearing was me being a disgruntled neighbor and just didn't like my neighbor, and I didn't like the way I was portrayed in that light. This is a matter of the city against Mr. Tolman. Yes, I have provided a lot of the evidence to you, but other neighbors have also, expressed their disgust with this situation, and so, if I could somehow be involved in that, or if my attorney could be involved. Also, in speaking with my attorney, there were some things that were said within that hearing that I think were flagrant lies. He presented that the building was actively under renovation. There's been absolutely nothing done to that. In fact, it's deteriorated. You know about the portico that's fallen off, and now the bare wires again, and now the portico sitting in the yard with nails, and we've got a 1 and a 3-year-old running around that backyard. The building was deemed safe, supposedly, or not a hazard by Mr. Cole, and if that portico had fallen on anybody, an adult or a child, we'd be talking about a fatality right now. So, my concern, and my attorney said to bring up that when another attorney flagrantly lies in a hearing like that, there's consequences for that, or there should be consequences for that. And I think we should look into pursuing those consequences.
Mr. Lindsay?
Thank you. Yeah, and that we are held to a higher standard when we make representations to the court. Absolutely.
So how does a person bring that up? How do we address that?
Mr. Lindsay?
Thank you, Mayor. Could we talk after the meeting tonight? There's a couple different ways. If you're represented by counsel, we may want to get your attorney on the phone as well.
Okay. I'm not officially represented. I'm being counseled at this time. My counsel is my sister, who is one of the top attorneys in the state of Minnesota. So I'm getting free counseling at this point, but she would be happy to get involved if it comes down to that.
Absolutely, Ed, but the reason I mention that is, as attorneys, we also have some ethical obligations about speaking with represented parties. And so I just want to be careful that if you have counsel or even standby counsel, they're involved in the conversations.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Lindsay. Please continue, Mr. Kingsley.
So I'm sure that when this new hearing date's set, you'll let me know when that is, and whether I can be there and whether I can have someone else there with me. And can I reply? I mean, it was super frustrating for me to sit there and listen to myself be just slandered and hitting the unmute button, and it's not working.
Mr. Lindsay?
Thank you, Mayor. Nope, and that's understandable, and I do recall the hearing, and I can understand your concern or your frustration with that. Obviously, we'll provide you with notice of the hearing. I think I provided, or I can provide you with the file number so you can track that online and you can access all the notices. Hearings, well, it doesn't seem as much like it. Hearings are still public hearings, and so everyone's welcome to attend.
Okay, thank you. I think that's what I have for now. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Lindsay. Anyone else? Counselor Paulson?
Thank you, Mayor. I do have a question. Was the defense attorney, was it the defense's attorney that was making false statements regarding the work that was being conducted or actually not being conducted? Did that actually happen in the hearing? That the attorney representing them alluded to the fact that it was in repair, ongoing repair right now?
Mr. Lindsay?
Thank you, Your Honor, or thank you, Mayor. Yeah, so my recollection, I would have to refer specifically to my notes, but I do recall on a couple of different occasions, the reference being made to the property that it was actively under rehabilitation.
And were those, would it be fair to say that the attorney would be using language based on what his client told him was happening? Or would that attorney, I mean, you're presenting evidence when you're in a hearing like that, and part of what we're trying to do is say, hey, what work is being done in there? We need to get in there to do the inspection. You've already passed that time frame anyway. So if it's an active renovation or something is active, doesn't that have to be factual when presented to the judge?
Mr. Lindsay?
And I think, Counselor, I think your comments are well taken. So I don't know what the basis, and I can't speculate as to the basis of the attorney's knowledge was. A lot of times we do rely on comments or statements that are made to us by our clients. We do have some obligation as attorneys to kind of follow up on those things. I'm not sure what the extent of that was. And as I recall the hearing, from the city's point of view, I was careful not to refer to any status of the property because we don't know what's happening there. And that was kind of the whole point of the hearing, was to try and get in to find out.
Okay, thank you, appreciate that.
Okay, thank you, Counselor Paulson. Counselor Beyondich?
Thank you. Do we anticipate any more delays on this? I mean, it seems like we make one step forward and we're pushed back all the way from the 120 days that we started this whole process to get to the court date, and now once again, we're being pushed back.
Mr. Lindsay?
Thank you, Mayor. I hope for no further delay. I can say confidently I don't expect delays as we've been experiencing them. I think from here to the end, it will be relatively smooth. Once the order is out, assuming that the administrative warrant is granted and we're given access, we would need just a short amount of time to be able to prepare, send our inspector in, have a look around, have a report prepared, and at that point, we would be fully ready to engage in the last portion of the hearing, which would be where we present evidence as to the actual condition of the property on the ground, so that we can formulate a relief from the court following from what the council ordered previously.
Thank you. Could you, and I'm sorry I didn't write it down, can you kind of give me a timeline or what the next steps are that are going to take place?
Mr. Lindsay?
Thank you, Mayor. I can give you the next steps. I can't give you a hard and fast timeline because to a certain extent, that's in the hands of the court. The courts are granted certain amounts of time to make decisions, and that's just how what the law provides. So what we've done is what's called bifurcate the proceeding on this motion. So there's two pieces that need to be accomplished. One piece is the court needs to make a ruling on our application for the administrative warrant, and that would be the document or the permission by the court for us to go in and conduct an inspection of the property. We need to undertake that step in order to collect the evidence that we'll need to present in the second step. The second portion or the final portion of this process is that the city will present evidence of the actual condition of the property to the court so that the court can make a determination whether the order issued by the city council needs to be affirmed and further action needs to move on the property, or whether the concerns raised by the city in its order to the land or the property owner have been sufficiently addressed by the property owner's action. And so then that would be the final decision of the court. What's outside of my control or outside my hands is the timing of when those steps occur. We have a timeline or briefing schedule to get the argument on the administrative warrant to the court. And technically, once that is with the court has up to 90 days to make a decision on the administrative warrant. I don't anticipate that it's going to take that long because the argument on the administrative warrant is fairly straightforward. Then from that point, the court would issue its order. We would have an opportunity to go in and inspect. It would take us just a short time to make the arrangements to do that. And once the report comes back from our inspector, we would be able to finalize. And I expect that what would happen is when in the order granting or denying the administrative warrant, the court will also tell us, and here's the date you come back to finish the hearing on the final step.
Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Lindsay. Thank you, Counselor Beyondich. Anyone else on the council? Anything else, Mr. Kingsley?
Yeah, so that brought up just a couple things. So let's say the judge issues this administrative warrant, hopefully. And you said get an inspector in there. Are we still looking at getting an independent inspector in there?
Mr. Lindsay?
Thank you, Mayor. I would have to defer. I think that the court's order would leave it open to the city, and I know that we have spoken with an independent inspector, and that we have one that's available.
Because part of my concern was that his attorney, Mr. Tolman's attorney, had stated, well, it was inspected by the city inspector, and he passed it off. The judge had no idea that there's a relationship between the city inspector and Mr. Tolman. Mr. Cole himself admitted that in one of the council meetings, that there is a relationship there, and that was my concern. That and the fact that I did my own independent inspection afterward, and so many things were missed by Mr. Cole that I have real concern over him being the one to do the inspection.
Okay. Anything else, Mr.
No,
Kingsley?
I think that's it for now.
Okay. Well, thank you very much. Appreciate that. So we'll look forward to the next step. Thank you. Okay, anything else on the property at 410 Fifth Street South? Counselor Paulson.
Thank you, Mayor. I would like to make a motion that, I guess it would be based on the judge granting us the ability to enter the property, that I would make a motion for the city staff to look into an independent contractor apart from our city building, independent building inspector, apart from our current city building inspector.
Okay, motion on the floor by Counselor Paulson. Is there support for that?
I'll support it.
A support by Counselor Motley. Further discussion? I would like to see, even if we do hire, if this passes, we hire an independent contractor, that our own city officials also be present at that time for the inspection, because without them present, they don't have any knowledge either. So part of that motion is to hire the inspector. I think our city employees who's responsible for that should also be part of that inspection team.
I would amend my motion.
Okay, thank you. And support? Okay, thank you. Moved and supported. Is there any further discussion? Hearing and seeing none, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye, opposed? Motion carries. Thank you. Item 7.2, the clinic lease. Do we have any updates at all, Britt, with respect to that? We're just moving forward with some additional inspections?
As directed, we're moving forward with talking with Essentia. We have a meeting with them February 7th, I believe, with Sherry, and their finance director and the clinic administrator, hospital administrator.
Yeah, meeting on February 7th with Essentia. Okay, thank you. Any other questions regarding the clinic lease as we move forward? Okay, move to item number 7.3, the rental code ordinance. Do we have a meeting, public meeting scheduled?
Remind me what day that is.
Pam, for the general public's edification, do we have a meeting scheduled to review the rental code ordinance?
Yes, we do, Mayor. It is scheduled for Monday, February 6th at 5:30 here at City Hall.
Monday, February 6th, 5:30, here at City Hall to discuss the rental code ordinance. All are welcome.
Correct.
Thank you. Once again, that is scheduled for Monday, February 5th? February 6th at 5:30 p.m. So thank you. Anything else from anyone with respect to the rental code? Okay, seeing none, we'll move to item 8, discussion items. Item 8.1 is adopt a resolution for change order number 1 for the Virginia Wastewater Treatment Facility grounds phosphorus improvement project as an increase of $2,583.49.
I'll move to approve.
Counselor Paulson moves to approve this resolution for change order number 1 Is there support? Is there support?
All support for discussion.
Support by Counselor Freely for further discussion. Further discussion, Counselor Freely?
So this project was approved by the council, budgeted accordingly. Does this set us outside the parameters of that budget?
It is a change order for an increase, so it is $2,583.49 more expensive than we planned, than we thought it was gonna be. What it happened was when they were replacing these troughs in the existing building, and they needed a metal piece to connect the trough to the building support. Until they cut it off, you couldn't see that you needed that piece in there. So there was just no way around it. As she notes in her memo, the project is final, so this is the only change order that will be coming forward for this project.
Thank you.
Thank you, Britt. Thank you, Counselor Freely. It has been moved and supported. Is there any further discussion? Counselor Beyondich.
Thank you. Was there a contingency fund for this?
Yeah,
There
there was
is-
15%, so, and the project was 500,000, so it falls in within the
It would,
contingency.
it would be covered by that?
Yep.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
Great question, thank you.
Thank you. Thank you, Counselor Beyondich. Okay, moved and supported. Is there any further discussion? Hearing and seeing none, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye, opposed, motion carries. Item 8.2, the Planning and Zoning Commission meeting that was held on January 9th, 2023. The meeting is to consider the following variance requests for Dr. Brahm and Mrs. Deborah Johns at 1303 South Fifth Avenue of the City of Virginia. Item 8.2A, approve the variance for a 1.6-foot variance to the required 5-foot side yard setback in order to construct a new exterior wall 3.4 feet from the north property line with the contingency of having water mitigation and roofing non-metal material. You want these individually? So looking for the approval from that.
I'll move approval of the variance.
Moved by Counselor Johnson, supported by Counselor Beyondich. Is there any further discussion? Hearing and seeing none, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? Motion carries. Item 8.2B, approve the variance for a 15.1-foot variance to the required 20-foot front yard setback in order to construct a new deck 4.9 feet from the east property line.
So moved.
Moved to approve by Counselor Johnson, support by Counselor Beyondich. Is there any further discussion? Hearing and seeing none, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye, opposed, motion carries. Item 8.2C, deny the variance for a 3-foot, 7-foot variance to the required 5-foot side yard setback in order to construct a new garage wall 1.3 feet from the south property line.
I'll move to deny.
Counselor Motley moves to deny the request. Is there support?
Mayor,
Yes.
just as a point of order.
Yes,
We
correct.
should try to stay away from making negative motions.
Okay, so thank you for that. I should know that already. I apologize for requesting for that. So how would the motion go with respect to the item C where the variance was recommended to not be approved?
Item C, D, and E should not be considered by the city council.
Pardon?
They are not considered by the city council. C, D, and E,
C, D, and E are not to be considered by the city council?
correct. Planning and zoning should only forward to you the recommendations they make for approval.
Well, thank you. Thank you for that. So if they want, they can appeal, correct?
Correct, so that what they approved was A, B, and F is what we should be taking action on.
Well, thank you for that clarification, Britt and Mr. Lindsay. So, we need to rescind the motion on item 8.2C and not consider item 8.2C, 8.D, and 8.E. So they shouldn't really be coming to the council at all. Is that correct? Okay, so just to clarify for the record, looking for a rescinding of the motion on item 8.2C.
I'll rescind it.
Okay. And the support rescinded as well. Thank you. So we will not, pardon? Yeah, we will take no action on item 8.2C, D, or E. We'll move to 8.2F. Approve the variance for a 200 square foot variance to the maximum allowable 30% rear yard, 320 square feet of coverage in order to cover 1,069 square feet of rear yard with an accessory structure. Under 8.2F, that was recommended for approval by planning and zoning. Looking for a motion.
So moved.
By Counselor Beyondich, supported by,
Support.
well, give Counselor Barnzelli a support there. Is there any further discussion? Counselor Johnson.
Thank you, Mayor. I was very confused by the minutes, so I went and talked to Stephanie, and she said that what they're doing is they're centering the variance we're approving centers the building and allows for a lot more what everybody was looking for. So that's why there's the denials and then the approval, because it was a compromise they made in the planning and zoning to place this building.
Okay, thank you for that, Counselor Johnson. So have we voted on that? Okay, thank you. Item 8.3, adopt the resolution. This is a new addition to the council agenda. Adopt the resolution to hire Pierce Ridson as a patrol officer. Move to approve by Counselor Freely. Is there support?
Support.
Support by Counselor Beyondich. Further discussion? I think this is the first time in years that we have finally reached our staffing levels for police. So this is good news that we have an applicant for that. So it's been moved and supported. Is there any further discussion? Hearing and seeing none, all those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Aye, opposed, motion carries. And item 8.4, which is another addition and amendment to the original committee of the whole report here. Item 8.4 is to approve the letter regarding the LCMR matching funds implementation. And could you give us a little synopsis of that, Britt?
Yep. The LCCMR grant is the Legislative Citizens Commission on Natural Resources Grant Fund, which receives their money from gambling dollars in the state. By state statute, all the gambling funds that come into the state, portion of it has to go to natural resources. So the legislators on the Environmental, Climate, and Legacy Committee are looking at requiring a matching fund requirement to those grants. Right now, there is zero matching fund requirements. What that would mean to Virginia and why they're asking for from the Northern ATV Joint Powers Board is that any grant we get from LCCMR would require a matching fund. And to remind you, we've received almost $2.5 million for our Bailey's Lake Trail, Silver Lake Trails, our floating dock, our trail along the Ironton Motors Event Center. And we have no matching fund requirement right now. So to add a matching fund requirement would be extremely detrimental to these kind of projects that should be funded by the natural resources gambling dollars, what they were meant for. So they are asking us, the Northern ATV Joint Powers Board is asking us to please submit this letter of support to the legislators.
Very good, thank you. Thank you for that.
So moved.
Move to approve by Counselor Freely. Is there support?
I'll support that.
By Counselor Motley. Is there any further discussion? Hearing and seeing none, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye, opposed? Motion carries, thank you. Okay, item 8.9, committee reports. 9.1, the committee of the whole meeting was held on January 17th, 2022. It was a full agenda, so we'll turn this portion of our city council meeting over to our city administrator, Britt C. Bennis. Britt?
Thank you. On January 17th, 2023, we had a presentation by Mr. Matt Reed, our engineer of record, regarding the change order for the SCADA lift station project. This change order was not a monetary change order in nature. It was strictly to address federal language documentation that was updated from our funder, CDBG, which requested us to update our project manual due to the prevailing wage language in the work classifications. It was moved and supported to approve that change order for the lift station SCADA project with no monetary change.
So moved.
Move to approve by Counselor Johnson, supported by
Support.
Counselor Beyondich. Is there any further discussion? Hearing and seeing none, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye, opposed? Motion carries.
Mike Larson from SCH, updated the city council on the bonding bill information. It does sound like there may be more than one bonding bill, maybe two bonding bills, a regular bonding bill and an ominous bonding bill for this year, coming out of the legislature this year. We had put in a request in 2021 for $11 million for a $22 million street project, and at the committee of the whole meeting on January 17th, we did authorize staff to update the bonding bill request for the 2023 bonding bill submission to be used for the 25-27 street improvement program.
So moved.
Move to approve this authorization for staff to update the bonding bill request for our 25-27 street improvement program. Is there support?
I'll support it.
Support by Counselor Motley. Is there any further discussion? Counselor Freely?
My understanding that there's potential legislation being enacted, or at least proposed, to require a 50% match even on bonding money. And I believe that the Rams organization sent a letter in opposition to that on behalf of
Yes.
kind of an FYI with regard to that. I can't even imagine why they would even consider that, given they have $17.9 billion in excess in the state. But in any event, that's something that they're thinking about doing.
Yeah. Good point. And Rams has been a strong proponent for that as well. So, okay, moved and supported. Any further discussion? Hearing, seeing none. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? Motion carries.
Mr. Pat Wurtz of Kraus Anderson was present to discuss the information and bids received for the demolition of the structures in the public safety area. 8 bids were received for the demolition project. The low bidder was TNT Construction Group LLC in the amount of $549,800 for the base bid. It was moved and supported to approve the low bid from TNT Construction Group for the demolition of the homes in the public safety area.
Thank you. Looking for a motion to approve. Moved to approve by Counselor Freely. Is there support?
I'll support it.
Support by Counselor Motley. Is there any further discussion? Hearing and seeing none. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? Motion carries.
Ms. Dana Hiltonen from the HRA was present to discuss the 2023-2024 budget for Washington Manor with the City Council and proposed options for rental increase. She noted there was approximately $110,000 in reserves plus the $50,000 in the current budget. A survey was done regarding internet needs of the residents, and it was noted that the MediaCom service is required as part of the rental lease. It was moved and supported to approve a 2.5% increase in rent for the 2023-2024 fiscal year at Washington Manor.
Looking for a motion from the council.
I'll move to approve.
Support.
Moved by Counselor Motley, supported by Counselor Johnson. Is there further discussion? I just want, wasn't it 2.2%? 2.25%? No, wasn't it 2 point?
That was 2.5.
Okay, thank you very much. Thanks for the clarification. Counselor Beyondich.
Thank you. And I just wanted to reach out to the public and let them know with the rising costs of MediaCom and upcoming projects that need to be done at that facility, that's the reason that it is being increased. Thank you.
Thank you, Counselor Beyondich. So it has been moved and supported to accept, to approve the 2.5% increase in rent for the Washington Manor for 2023, 2024. Is there any further discussion? Hearing and seeing none, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? Motion carries.
It was moved and supported to accept the proposed 2023-2024 budget for Washington Manor.
So moved.
Moved to approve by Counselor Johnson, supported by Counselor Freely. Is there any further discussion? Counselor Beyondich.
Sorry.
Further discussion? Okay. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? Motion carries.
It was moved and supported to approve the travel request for Luke Gorky from the Virginia Fire Department so he may attend the Firefighter 1 and 2 courses January 20th through the 22nd, 2023 in Granite Falls, Minnesota at a cost of $788.01.
So moved.
Move to approve by Counselor Johnson. Is there support?
Support.
By Counselor Motley. Is there any further discussion? I'm sorry, was it Counselor Paulson? Counselor Motley and Counselor Beyondich, so we'll go with Counselor Paulson. Any further discussion? Hearing and seeing none, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye, opposed, motion carries. Thank you.
At the committee of the whole meeting, we discussed the proposed scope of work regarding a sewer rate study from Baker Tilly US LLP. The study would cost $10,500, and it would assist the city to determine the current rates to be increased due to the unfunded mandates for the city wastewater facility. And it was moved and supported.
So moved.
Move to approve by Counselor Johnson. Is there support?
Support for discussion.
Support by Counselor Beyondich for further discussion. Further discussion, Counselor Beyondich.
Can you explain to the public how this works and the cost of $10,500 and how that will help our citizens? Thank you.
So the sewer rate has to pay for not only the operation of the wastewater treatment plant, we have a bond for the construction that we're still paying for. There was a 40-year bond. And then we also have mandates. Every time we renew our permit, I think it's 2 or 3 years, there's new technology we have to implement. And so there is a cost of doing business for wastewater, for flushing your toilet, basically. And so the study helps us figure out gives us an idea of what to project the rates are going to be for the next 5 years. Because we don't want to make a costly mistake and charge our citizens more than we need to make sure that these are covered, these increases in the payments for the bond.
Yeah, it's another unfunded mandate moving forward to pay for these studies as a result of these rate increases for technology readjustments every couple of years. So it has been moved and supported. Is there any further discussion? Hearing and seeing none, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye, opposed? Motion carries.
Brian Silber, our Parks and Recreation Director, presented information on the proposed entrance project at Alcott Park. They are hoping to create historically inspired pillars at the entrance to the park on the north side from 9th Street North. The Brewfest Committee and Virginia Community Foundation have both been approached for funds, and at the meeting, they had requested permission to submit an application to Iron Range Resources. It was moved and supported to approve the resolution for application and acceptance of funds from Iron Range Resources and Rehabilitation for a culture and tourism grant for the Alcott Park 9th Street entrance project.
Looking for a motion.
I'll move to approve.
Move to approve by Counselor Paulson. Is there support?
I'll support it.
Support by Counselor Motley. Is there any further discussion? Hearing and seeing none, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? Motion carries.
It was moved and supported to approve payment of the 2023 Range Association of Municipalities and Schools, or RAMS, dues in the amount of $950.
So moved.
Move to approve by Counselor Freely, been supported by Counselor Johnson. Is there any further discussion? Hearing and seeing none, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? Motion carries.
Councilor Motley presented information for a potential park and trail development project around the Columbia, Mesabi, Commodore, and Norman pits. It was moved and supported to direct staff to proceed with further investigation for an outdoor recreation destination in the proposed area around the Columbia, Mesabi, Commodore, and Norman pits.
Moved by Counselor Motley, supported by Counselor Freely. Is there any further discussion? Counselor Motley.
I again just think the potential, there's so many things that need to go right for this to actually happen, but if it were to actually happen, I think it could be absolutely huge for our downtown with the possibility of doing a trailhead somewhere downtown to bring in tourists. This is really big if we can do it. I hope we can, and I guess we'll see what happens going forward.
Thank you. Thank you, Counselor Motley. So has been moved and supported. Is there any further discussion? Hearing and seeing none, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? Motion carries.
Chrissy Warwas from the Iron Range Home Sport and Travel Show sent a letter regarding the 2023 event After much discussion, it was moved and supported to approve the de-escalating rate for the future Iron Range Home Sport and Travel Show and to waive the electrical and table setup fees for the remainder of years for the de-escalating schedule, and to allow Brian Silber, Park and Recreation Director, to immediately convey this information to the Iron Range Home Sport and Travel Show.
Moved by Counselor Freely. Is there support?
Support.
Support by Counselor Paulson. Further discussion? It appears as though he's already done that, so this is good. All those in favor signify by saying aye. I'm sorry. Further discussion, Counselor Paulson.
Thank you, Mayor. So before we had talked about this, there were items 1 through 4, I believe, on the letter from Doug Ellis through Chrissy Borwis. They were, there was, the number 1 issue was the naming rights and the conflict of interest. And I know at our last meeting, we voted to move forward to send an email, and I didn't know if we gave a time frame for that email to transpire, and I just wanted to have a conversation about that, and because that will hinge on the Home Sport and Travel Show and their timing of being able to, I don't know currently if they've even signed the contract, but I feel like that will be part of the hinging decision there.
Are you looking for a response?
I would like a response from I guess I don't know if it was even reflected in our minutes. When we came out of closed session and moved into open session, our YouTube video did not pick that motion up. So I don't know if we could reflect the motion again, Pam, if you might have that. I don't know if it's even,
Well, we did the motion and approved the motion at that meeting, which was a special council meeting.
okay,
So
but
that
the YouTube
passed.
video wasn't running, like there was no, is there a documentation of that, or is that in the directives? I'm not sure.
That's in our last council meeting minutes where we directed staff to do that.
Yep, and so my question to our city attorney is, I don't think we put a time frame on the email with that clause that we were, or with the contract that we were submitting an email to Iron Trail Motors Event Center regarding the conflict of interest.
Okay, thank you. Brian, I think what we did was, if I may, we did make the motion to address those issues, and we passed at that council meeting to move forward with the notification of the 60 days, right? And we, okay, you have that, Britt, thank you.
Yeah, the minutes was moved by Counselor Paulson, supported by Counselor Motley to direct staff to send Iron Trail Motors and their attorney a letter regarding notification of default of the current contract.
Okay, so we didn't give them a time frame. So I think that's what I'd like to discuss right now, if I may, what we're looking at in time frame to deliver for that email to be sent out.
Okay, Brian? Do we have, well, we have the motion on the floor is to approve the de-escalating rate. That's what was the motion. The other items aren't part of that motion, but you want to continue, I think we can discuss it within the motion, so. When we send out this email, there's a 60-day window, is that correct? Or what was the answer, what was the question you had again, I'm sorry?
I'm just looking, because we're talking about the Home Sport and Travel Show. We're gonna, hopefully if everyone says aye, we're gonna approve the de-escalation rate.
Yep.
However, we still don't have the answers to the question in the minutes here that our city administrator was reading. It mentions Chrissy Warwis's letter. And in that letter, there were 4 items, I guess it was forwarded from Doug Ellis, but in that letter, there were 4 items specifically addressed by the Home Sport and Travel Show group. So I was bringing up item number 1 in Chrissy Warwis's email to the council and looking for when we will be sending this email out if we haven't already.
Mr. Lindsay?
Thank you, Mayor. So the answer to the question is, there was a previous correspondence sent out that directly addressed that issue from the city. It was the city specifically made a demand or a request upon Iron Trail Motors that they waive that
Correct.
and allow that. The response so far has not been favorable to that request, though I don't believe we've gotten a direct answer on the question. And so the secondary correspondence that was a result of that special meeting, I have prepared it. I provided it to Britt today to review, but I have not disseminated or distributed that email yet.
Okay, so does the council need to look at that before it needs to go out? And make sure that it's covering what is the normal? I just want to make sure we're doing it the right way. I'm not saying you're not. I just want to make sure that I can see what you're sending before it's sent out.
Mr. Lindsay?
And either I or Britt can distribute a draft of that letter. And in this situation, I think it is important for the council to see it because it is sending a direct message from the council.
And so it will be this specific draft that the council will be receiving that will be sent.
Correct.
And that will be sent when?
He just literally sent me at 5:55
I mean, oh, not to the council, I mean to the party.
to the party.
Yeah, it can be sent within the next 24 to 48 hours.
Okay, so, thank you. And after that, I might make a motion. Thank you.
Yes, so let's vote on this motion first and then move for the other. Approve the de-escalating rate for the future of the Iron Range Home and Boat and Travel Show and waive the electrical and table setup fees for the remainder of the years for the de-escalating schedule and to allow Brian Silber, our Park and Rec Director, to immediately convey the information to the Iron Range Home Boat and Travel Show. It has been moved and supported. Is there any further discussion? Hearing and seeing none, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye, opposed, motion carries. Counselor Paulson.
Thank you, Mayor. I guess I'd like to make a motion to direct our city attorney to email, is a proper channel an email channel or a mail postal certified?
Mr. Lindsay?
Typically, this specific provision has to be distributed pursuant to the terms of the contract.
Okay, so I would say direct our city attorney to send a letter pursuant to the terms in the contract to the Iron Trail Motors Company.
Okay, thank you. That's been moved by Counselor Paulson. Is there support?
I'll support it.
Support by Counselor Motley. Is there any further discussion? Hearing and seeing none, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
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 Aye. Opposed? Motion carries. Thank you, Counselor Paulson.
Committee of the whole meeting, we discussed the proposed tax forfeit land parcel ID 9082-160, which is on 15th Avenue West, which is vacant garage space. It was moved and supported to approve the purchase by the city of the tax forfeited land parcel ID 9082-160 from St. Louis County under their tax forfeit procedures.
In the amount of?
It would be $500 plus closing cost.
Thank you.
So moved.
Move to approve by Counselor Freely. Is there support?
Support.
Support by Counselor Johnson. Further discussion? Hearing and seeing none, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? Motion carries.
Mayor, I'd just like to put it on the record that we are buying it for the $500 for public purpose. If at any time we try to sell it within the next, I think it's 20, 25 years, to a private party that's not public purpose, we have to pay the county back the appraised value of the property.
Okay, which is more than $500.
More than $500. Well, I don't know if it's much more than that.
Not much more, but
But just
okay.
just want to get that on record.
Okay, thank you.
Yep, thank you. It was moved and supported to approve the updated resolution for eminent domain for the remaining properties in the public safety area.
Thank you.
Just one comment on that previous.
Yes, Counselor Freely.
So that was necessary for some secured storage space for this.
Correct. Correct.
Okay, thank you. Again, Britt?
Yep, it was moved and supported to approve the updated resolution for eminent domain for the remaining parcels in the public safety area.
So moved.
A move to approve by Counselor Johnson. Is there support?
Support.
By Counselor Paulson. Is there any further discussion? Hearing and seeing none, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? Motion carries.
It was moved and supported to direct staff and to allow staff to place an east-west directional sign at the intersection of 2nd Avenue West and 8th Street South for directions to TriTech RMS or where to East 8th Street South is.
So moved.
Move to approve by Counselor Johnson, supported by Counselor Beyondich. Is there any further discussion? Hearing and seeing none, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye, opposed, motion carries.
It was moved and supported to allow staff to review the citizen's request for installation of a stop sign at 6th Avenue North and 15th Street North and to make a recommendation to the council.
So moved.
Move to approve by Counselor Johnson, supported by Counselor Barnzelli. Is there any further discussion? Counselor, I'm sorry, Pam.
Thank you, Mayor. I did speak with Public Works Director Jim Rosfit, and he approves putting the stop sign in. So that is, if you want to change the motion to allow installation of the stop sign rather than review for.
And it's based on the recommendation of our Public Works Director.
Mayor, I think the bigger
I
discussion
think
was.
we should
that-
go to
Yeah,
committee of the whole.
yeah, the bigger discussion was regarding, we are reconstructing 6th Avenue from 9th up to 15th. And so it was discussion on, do we need to keep that? We should maybe look at the plans of 6th Avenue first and see what else we need to do.
So we'll move that to the committee of the whole meeting for additional discussion.
That'd be wonderful.
We'll do that, Pam. We'll move that to the committee of the whole for additional discussion. Thank you. Moved and supported. Is there any further discussion? Hearing and seeing none, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye, opposed, motion carries. Thank you.
It was moved and supported to approve the, conveyance of tax forfeited property parcel 913730 for the 13th Street South right-of-way for the 2023 street improvement project from St. Louis County. Similar situation, it's $500 plus closing cost.
Move to approve by Counselor Johnson. Is there support? By Counselor Barnzelli. Further discussion? Hearing and seeing none, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye, opposed, motion carries.
It was moved and supported to approve the proposed job description for the fire department intern position.
So moved.
Move to approve by Counselor Freely, been supported by Counselor Johnson. Is there any further discussion? Hearing and seeing none, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye, opposed, motion carries.
It was moved and supported to approve the proposed internship agreement for the fire department for a 5-year period ending November 30th, 2027 with the University of Minnesota.
So moved.
Move to approve by Counselor Freely, been supported by Counselor Johnson. Is there any further discussion? Counselor Beyondich.
Thank you. And I just wanted to note at the meeting, this will be funded, they are not fully staffed at the fire department, so that is how this will be taken care of. And also, if we do become fully staffed at any point, we do not have to continue with this. So just clarification for the public. Thank you.
Thank you, Counselor Beyondich. Has been moved and supported. Is there any further discussion? Counselor Freely.
I would just add that we are under no obligation to have any additional interns assigned to the city during that 5-year period, but I think it's actually beneficial to the city to maintain an association with the University of Minnesota, specifically for potential recruitment process or purposes. So, thank you.
Okay, thank you, Counselor Freely. So it has been moved and supported. Is there any further discussion? Hearing and seeing none, all those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye, opposed, motion carries.
It was moved and supported to approve the proposed job description for the library associate, reference, and outreach librarian with the proposed updates regarding qualifications.
So moved.
Moved by Counselor Johnson to approve. Is there support?
I'll support it.
Support by Counselor Motley. Is there any further discussion? We have the library director in the audience. You're good with that? Moved and supported. Is there any further discussion? Hearing and seeing none, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye, opposed, motion carries.
It was moved and supported to approve the memorandum of understanding with AFSCME Local 454 for the extension of comp time accrual for snow removal only for the AFSCME union through 12/31/23.
So moved.
Moved to approve by Counselor Johnson. Is there support?
Support.
By Counselor Freely. Is there any further discussion? Counselor Paulson.
Thank you, Mayor. I have a question. Maybe Britt can answer this. So when we put this, so this is the second year, I think the first year we put this in was due to COVID and people were out for longer periods of time. And so we needed we wanted to be able to give them the ability to do a comp time based on that. I think I'm right in my remembrance or on that. Now, going forward, as we approve this, does that automatically then bring it forward into the next year as an expectation of by AFSCME, the union?
They'd have to come to us again for memorandum of understanding. So the way the MOU reads is that they can accrue up to, I believe it's 350 through May, through the snow season. They have to use back down to 240 by the end of December, or they lose, they get paid out that portion above 240 on December 31st.
Okay. So then, and then can you refresh I guess the reason that we were requested to actually extend this MOU?
The Federal Labor Standards Act, I think I always get that wrong, FLSA, states that municipal employees can accrue comp time in lieu of getting paid overtime. And the maximum you can get is 240, is for most employees, except for those in police, fire, and emergency seasonal operations, which would be for us, snow removal.
So this gives them the opportunity to have comp time instead of being paid overtime.
Correct, correct.
And so, but by the council doing this again, we're not automatically expected to do it in the future.
Correct.
Okay, thank you, I appreciate that.
Okay, thank you. Moved and supported, is correct? Is there any further discussion? Hearing and seeing none, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye, opposed? Motion carries.
Our building official, Mr. Bill Cole, has requested a phased retirement option as he is looking to retire in the next year or so. It was moved and supported to approve the phased retirement option for Bill Cole, building official in the Community Development Planning and Permitting Department, which would allow him to work no more than 1,044 hours on an hourly basis while in this position.
So moved.
Moved by Counselor Freely, is there support?
Hesitant support.
Support by Counselor Johnson. Is there any further discussion? Counselor Paulson, did you have some more discussion?
I actually wanted to make a motion prior, but that's okay. We'll finish this one. Thank you.
On this matter here? Did we already make a motion to support that? Okay, well, let's vote on this first, and then we'll go back. Moved and supported. Is there any further discussion on the phased option for Bill Cole?
I could.
Further discussion, Counselor Freely?
I just think this is going to be beneficial to the city in this transition from Bill retiring to new people taking responsibility for some of the tasks and responsibilities that he's had, and also that we haven't yet had the opportunity to hire a community developer. So I think this is going to be valuable to us to still retain the professional expertise of Mr. Cole for this period of time. Thank you.
Thank you, Counselor Freely. So it has been moved and supported. Is there any further discussion? Counselor Johnson?
I was going to say the exact same thing, Counselor Freely, thank you.
Okay, is there any further discussion? Hearing and seeing none, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye, opposed, motion carries. Counselor Paulson.
Thank you, Mayor. I appreciate you going backwards on the agenda. So we had discussed at the committee level, or the committee of the whole, that we weren't receiving the comp time and overtime. So I'd like to actually make a motion, and were we receiving those quarterly or monthly?
Was at least
think it was
quarterly,
monthly.
but it was
It was
tried to do it
monthly.
monthly.
I just saw one the other day. Overtime and comp time. Okay, go ahead, make the motion.
I'm going to make a motion to direct city staff to monthly forward the council the overtime and comp time reports.
Okay, thank you. A motion by Counselor Paulson. Is there support? By Counselor Beyondich. Is there any further discussion? Hearing and seeing none, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye, opposed, motion carries.
Item 9.1V, it was moved and supported to approve the submission of the pay equity report to the state of Minnesota.
So moved.
Move to approve by Counselor Johnson. Is there support?
I'll support.
By Counselor Motley. Is there any further discussion? Hearing and seeing none, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye, opposed, motion carries.
It was moved and supported to approve the development agreement with North St. Louis County Habitat for Humanity for the purchase of property that the city is purchasing in exchange for construction of 4 new homes in the next 8 years. These properties are currently owned by Masabi Property Management, but upon signature of the development agreement, the city will sign the purchase agreement to purchase the parcels from Masabi Property Management.
So moved.
Move to approve by Counselor Johnson, and was there support? Support by Counselor Barnzelli. Is there any further discussion? Counselor Beyondich.
Could you refresh my memory on what we paid for those parcels?
We are paying $150,000 for all 7 parcels. Habitat is paying us $20,000
For how many parcels?
for 4 parcels. And then as part of the development agreement, we're going to do a land exchange. They have a parcel on Fifth Avenue, and we have the parcel on the corner of Second Street North and Third Avenue. We're going to flip-flop land. And then we're going to, the parcels that are not sold to Habitat, we're going to sell on the open market.
Do you think we'd be able to recoup our money for the 150,000 minus 20?
130, yes, I do
130.
think so, yes.
Thank you.
Thank you, Counselor Beyondich. Moved and supported. Is there any further discussion? Counselor Freely.
Just curiosity, have we reached out to residents in that area, or has there been any feedback from residents in that area with regard to this plan?
Yes,
And it's been favorable?
favorable, very
Perfect.
favorable.
Perfect, thank you.
Thank you. Moved and supported. Any further discussion? Hearing and seeing none, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye, opposed? Motion carries.
Was moved and supported to approve the change to ordinance Chapter 6, Section 642, Subdivision A of the City Code entitled Lodging Tax to include the terms that would allow us to place, includes the term to short-term rentals, which are 29 days or less, which allows us to place the tourism tax required in Virginia on short-term rentals as well.
I'll move the first reading.
Counselor Johnson moves to approve the first reading. Is there support?
I'll support.
Support by Counselor Motley. Is there any further discussion? Hearing and seeing none, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye, opposed? Motion carries.
It was moved and supported to allow negotiations to begin with the Golf Pro contractor for contract services beginning in the 2023 golf season.
So moved.
Move to approve by Counselor Johnson. Is there support? By Counselor Barnzelli. Is there any further discussion? Hearing and seeing none, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye, opposed? Motion carries.
There was discussion regarding city purchasing and local businesses from the city. Discussion regarding the point of sale system and the AFSCME contract for part-time, no clothing allowance for AFSCME contract for the part-time recreation employees. I'm trying to read here, it was kind of a. The city staff at the Iron Trail Motors Event Center are working on an inventory system that will also track all revenue and costs involved for every project and every event that goes on there. Mr. Brian Silber also discussed the proposal for a concept design services for an all-wheel park. Silber explained the difference between an all-wheel park versus a skate park. An all-wheel park would be for all types of non-motorized equipment such as bikes, skateboards, scooters, etc. It was moved and supported to approve the quote for concept design services from American Ram Company and to allow staff to submit an application and receive funds for the LCC MAR grant application for the all-wheel park.
Okay, before we make a motion and take action on that, Counselor Paulson, you have a question regarding the issue regarding the point of sale and the other issues?
I would like to make a motion on that.
Please do.
Thank you. I would, well, my motion would be on the expenditures. So all expenditures have to be itemized when inputting in our coding system. So I would like to move that anything that is put in there needs to be itemized.
Okay, a motion by Counselor Paulson. Is there support for that?
Support.
Support by Counselor Beyondich. Is there any further discussion? Since you made the motion, first Counselor Paulson, and then over to Counselor Johnson. Okay, Counselor Johnson.
Thank you, Mayor. Before I would support that, I would want to make sure we're meeting the government standards. There are governmental accounting standards that are required to be met, and I don't know that we should be tinkering with the specifics. I think there's certain categories that stuff needs to go in, and I would like to get an opinion on how we do that and what it looks like, if we can do that without not messing with the accounting, that when the auditors come in, they've got rules they're following that are very specific. And I know that when I was doing Apple Tree, I could put stuff in, but when the auditors came, I had to move it back out anyway because it didn't meet the accounting standards that are standard. So I guess I'd want more information before I would support that.
Okay, thank you. Counselor Paulson?
Thank you, Mayor. I'm going to stand by my motion because all of the codes have numbers, like they have a vendor number or an account number or a fund number. So the numbers are being put in, so those are accounting practices. Those numbers are being put in. It's the itemization and the fact that I'm trying to not make a negative. We just got told not to make a negative motion, so I could have made a motion to say no miscellaneous being put in that column. But instead of doing that, what I'm saying is I'm asking for all expenditures to be itemized when inputting in our coding system.
Okay, thank you.
So I'd like to stand by that motion.
Do we have a motion and a support for that? Do we have support yet? Okay, Pam?
Are you, excuse me, Counselor Paulson, are you referring to the description of
That would
the
be in the
item?
description of the item, correct?
Thank you. So it has been moved and supported. Is there any further discussion? Counselor Freelieb?
Can I ask, so the accounting system, do we use UFARS, the Uniform Financial Accounting and Reporting System?
There's a state book that we have to follow for codes, and the codes do have the fund, the department, whatever, but they also have descriptions. And what she's referring to is per invoice, but there's a 30-character limit, so we will do the best we can to put in that 30 characters what the item is. We did talk about the no miscellaneous supplies discussion at the committee of the whole meeting.
So we have a separate software
We have a software called Cassell.
What's it called?
Cassell,
Cassell, okay,
Yep.
all right, thank you.
but we have to follow there's a state book, and I can find it and send it to everybody, but
Is that an acronym for something?
Cassell?
Yeah.
No, it's just the name of the program.
Okay, thank you.
I have one question. So if we don't have the capability of itemizing these in a Cassell program, say for example,
30 characters, I mean, we can,
which is 30 characters, and so you're going to, as far as this motion goes, do the best you can to accomplish that goal and objective. In the event that this 30 characters is not enough for to satisfy the motion, a separate itemized list could be provided. Is that correct?
that's the schedule of bills. The schedule of bills has got that all on there.
Part of the schedule of bills and the itemized account
Schedule
of
of bills
that.
are always kept in a box downstairs at any time any of the council members want to look through it. You can look at the purchase order, you can look at the invoice, it's all by alphabetical order. And it's not put away until the day after the council meeting when the checks are cut.
Very good. Thank you, Britt. So it has been moved and supported. Is there any further discussion? Counselor Paulson?
Thank you, Mayor. If they can put miscellaneous supplies dash ITMEC on there, which is 31 characters, they absolutely can put a better description in there than that. There's also one labeled miscellaneous supplies dash public works, and I can sit and count how many characters that is. And I would recommend that if in the Cassell program, Cassell can make the adjustment on the back end, excuse me, on the back end of that program and extend the length of your description.
We will do the best we can.
So I'm going to stand by my motion. Thank you.
Thank you. Motion by Counselor Paulson, supported by, who supported that? Counselor Beyondich supported it. Is there any further discussion? Counselor Beyondich?
Thank you. And I think, and for me, this is more about transparency. it is to be transparent on where the money is being spent, how we're spending it, and the accountability. Thank you.
Okay, thank you, Counselor Beyondich. So it has been moved and supported. Is there any further discussion? Hearing and seeing none, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Roll call, please, Pam.
Motley? Leap?
Yes.
Paulson?
Yes.
Beyondich?
Yes.
Johnson?
No.
Aaron Sally? Coffee?
Yes, motion passes 6-1. Thank you.
And item 9.1Z was to approve the quote for concept design services from American Ramp Company and to allow staff to submit an application and receive funds for the LCCMR grant application for the all-wheel park.
So moved.
Move to approve by Counselor Johnson
Support
and
for discussion.
supported by Counselor Freely for discussion. Further discussion, Counselor Freely.
Just real quick, we do not have a whole lot of space in this city for creating these types of, I mean, so I guess my question would be, did Brian ever share with us what some of the preliminary sites were that he looked at and how many acres or how much land would be needed to
It's not as big as you think. The Park and Rec Commission has been working on this for a little while, and though it's one spot, the first spot they're looking at is between the ball field and 3rd Street South and the Angel Park, the Angel of Hope Park.
Oh.
Where the very tall trees that need to be cut
Yeah.
are. That's the first spot they were looking at. The second one is on South Side Park,
Okay, like in the park.
in the park, before the park, at that grassy area before you get to the building.
Thank you.
Thank you, Counselor Freely. Britt has moved and supported. Is there any further discussion? Hearing and seeing none, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? Motion carries.
It was moved and supported to approve the B3 building envelope commissioning services for the Virginia Public Safety Facility Project with CR Building Performance Specialist in the amount of $82,900.
So moved.
Move to approve by Counselor Johnson. Is there support?
I'll support.
Support by Counselor Motley. Is there any further discussion? Hearing and seeing none, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? Motion carries.
Item 9.1BB was moved and supported to send a letter to Rockridge 2909 encouraging the school to remove the existing building here in Virginia to build a playground for a safe environment.
So moved.
Move to approve by Counselor Johnson, supported by Counselor Motley. Further discussion. I don't have the official minutes, and I don't want to speak. I want to make sure that it's accurate, but the information is that the school board did act on that last night. And they made a decision on what option they were going to take moving forward. And leaving the building up is my understanding, and that they were going to leave the building up and move forward with the North Star School with the other option. So that's what was discussed. I don't know if a formal vote was taken, but that was my understanding based on the information I received from the school board, people that attended the school board meeting last night. So, Counselor Freely.
Was there any indication that there'd be some additional pursuit for additional funds that may be appropriated to be able to bring this building down? Because my concern is like, you're gonna have this beautiful, brand-new building sitting literally right next to a boarded-up, abandoned building. That's not really what the people voted for in this $180 million project. So I'm hoping that they're gonna be creative in finding sources or resources to be able to complete the project as we had voted in favor of when we actually did approve this referendum. Thank you.
Thank you. It's my understanding their intent is to do that very same thing. They just received within the last month or so a grant of $4.7 million from the IRRB to bridge some of the gaps with respect to building of the schools. They have another $2.3 million deficit still to look. to try to bridge. Then they're looking at some alternative source of funding. They're seeking other places to seek more funding for that. I'm assuming that one of them would be the bonding bill that the governor has touted as to be the largest education bill in his budget that's ever been undertaken in the state of Minnesota. So I don't know where that's coming from, but they still need to look at another $2.3 million. And part of that is my assumption that the discussion was they want to make sure that they take care of everything, but with the funding sources that they have now, they have option A and option B, and it's my understanding they took the option to put all the new FF&E in the new North Star School as opposed to putting the old furniture in and redoing the, and tearing down the old building. So they're seeking funding which to do that. They want to do both, but they're seeking other revenue streams to accomplish that. Thank you. Britt? Did we move it? Did we have to vote on that yet? Okay, moved and supported. Is there any further discussion? Hearing and seeing none. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye, opposed. Motion carries. Quick question. We did send that letter, right?
I'd had a conversation with Dr. Schmidt. I did not send the letter.
Very good. Okay, thank you.
It was moved and supported to direct staff to develop a clothing policy for employees at the Iron Trail Motors Event Center.
I'll move to approve.
Okay, move to approve by Counselor Paulson. Is there support?
Support.
Support by Counselor Beyondich. Further discussion, Counselor Paulson.
Thank you, Mayor. I don't know if we need to clarify the motion, but it would be more along the lines of a uniform allowance. If we, excuse me, I requested from our Park and Rec Director, it appears that they've already put a policy together, a dress code policy at the Iron Trail Motors Event Center. So I think what we need to discuss is a uniform allowance, as we have done so in the past for other unions, or if we've required to have them wear a uniform. So I think we were directing city staff to do more of that. But I would also like staff to come back and let us know what is acceptable, because the way that I calculated, it's about $20,000 that we spent this year. And if you divide that by the number of employees of 40 employees, that's about $500 per employee per year per expenditure on uniform-related items. So if we could have that broken down to what the recommendation would be for a clothing allowance, and then put together, I don't know if we need to adopt, if our Park and Rec Director made, this must be like in their, when they give this out to new employees, their staff handbook or whatever, employee handbook, do we need to approve this appearance policy first before it's implemented? Because does the council create policy, or do department heads create policy?
Well, I think the city administrator, with the discussion with the department head, establishes a policy and brings it forward to us for implementation. I think part of the motion is to direct staff to develop a clothing policy, which would include whether or not there's going to be a stipend for that clothing allowance or some other method moving forward. We'll come back to the city council to take a look at that clothing policy for approval.
That looks perfect, although I'm just, what I'm pointing out is our Park and Rec Director, they've already crafted a policy, and I don't know if this council needs to approve that policy, because council approves policy, staff recommends policy. So I don't know, I don't remember ever adopting this clothing policy.
Well, I've never seen it, so maybe it's something.
I requested Brian to give me a copy, and I was late, I was gonna go pick it up. So he dropped it off on my desk, and I just saw it before commission interviews. But I'm concerned if we're doing it backwards, if they are writing and it's called a policy right on there, the council approves a policy, the staff brings a policy forward for consideration. Is that correct?
Yeah, and I think you're directing the staff to develop the clothing policy for employees at the Iron Trail Motors, which includes all those things. And then it comes back to the committee of the whole for discussion. We make some changes and make approval at the formal council meeting. Is that correct?
Mayor, if I may, our city
please, Britt.
personnel policy does state that the department heads get to determine what their staff wears. So that's where this policy came from. you are correct. We talked about at the committee of the whole meeting that, about creating a uniform allowance for, so that everybody had the same dollar amount, same access to whatever they may need. Yes, yes.
So then this policy does not need to be adopted because they have the authority to do that.
When we get to the point of discussion about dollars, we probably should do both of them at the same time.
Okay, then I guess then that would be the expectation, and Pam, I don't know if you want that clarified in the motion. It would be a clothing policy and then a
Allowance.
uniform allowance. Thank you. Thank you, Mayor, for allowing me to continue.
Sure, so we have the clarification, if you would please, Pam, with that little bit of a adjustment on the motion, would you please read back the motion for
Moved by Counselor
clarification?
Paulson, supported by Counselor Beyondich, to direct city staff to develop a clothing policy and uniform allowance for employees at the Iron Trail Motors Event Center.
Is that correct? Moved and supported, is there any further discussion? Hearing and seeing none, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye, opposed? Motion carries.
Thank you. And just the final point of what happened at the meeting, Brian Silber, our Park and Rec Director, informed the council that we had received the floor scrubber for the Iron Trail Motors Event Center. The first purchase from May of 2022 was delayed again into February, so as the council directed Mr. Silber, he verbally canceled the order and then followed up in writing. The company we ordered the second floor scrubber from had a similar walk-behind floor scrubber that was available, and that was purchased to replace the item that was canceled at a much greater reduced rate.
Okay, thank you.
No further items from that meeting.
Okay, thank you. Moved item 10, Commission Liaison Reports. Does any counselor want to give a liaison report? I have one, but I'll wait, hold in abeyance. First, we'll go to Counselor Paulson, and then over to Counselor Motley. Counselor Paulson.
Thank you, Mayor. The Cable Commission met last week. I don't know the date. And so what some of the discussion that was had is the council had directed Steve Rockala to make an equipment list of things that would be needed to upgrade our system in order for our upstairs system to communicate with what's in the basement. So in Steve compiling those, the commission basically was looking at the franchise fees and the PEG fees and how those fees, how the city collects those fees, and if those fees are, if they roll over into a fund, or how best to utilize those. And I think the reason they were looking at that is they were looking at coming forward with an approximate $40,000 total expenditure on some of their equipment that is going to be needed to be upgraded, as well as making sure our system runs seamlessly between up here and downstairs. So with that being said, it kind of spurred on some emails from Bob Cohen that is basically looking to understand how the PEG fees and franchise fees, how the city treats those. And then a meeting will be put together between city staff and the Cable Commission to go forward and discuss those, I guess to have that discussion ultimately, and then I can report back at the next quarterly meeting. Thank you, Mayor.
Thank you, Counselor Paulson. Counselor Motley.
Okay, so I have two commission meetings to report on. The first one was the Park and Recs from last Wednesday, January 18th. They approved working with the family of Joel Squillis to design a plaque to be considered for mounting in his honor in the greenhouse. Discussed Alcott Park entrance project and the IRRR grant that opens in February. If we receive this grant, we will have just under 80,000 of the projected 109,000 needed for the project. Additional funding sources were discussed. Discussed the 2023 LCCMR grant project, All-Wheel Park will begin working on design after approval from the City Council. Discussed 2024 Outdoor Fitness Park Grant application through NFC and Blue Cross. After grant projects, we'll still have a $105,000 shortfall, so additional funds will need to be raised. Music in the Park Committee is beginning to meet. Bands can apply now until March 31st. Committee will select and schedule bands to play every Tuesday evening at 6 p.m. at the Alcott Fountain from June through August, including the 4th of July, exclamation mark, member of the public address the commission regarding city tree policy. There is a public input meeting scheduled for this coming Monday, January 30th at 5:30 in the council chambers. The next commission meeting is shorter. This would be the public utilities from yesterday's meeting. In regards to the Mesabi College STEAM discussion, the commission approved Greg to write a letter to the college to document discussions, including a one-year incentive if they are done a year early. The second new energy-efficient steam boiler will be on prior to next month's meeting, along with the first boiler, which has been available since May of 2022.
Thank you, Councilor Motley. Any other commission liaison reports? Okay, I would give you one real quick report with respect to the Rockridge School Board meeting. And this is not the one that was held last night. This is a previous one. I held it in advance because we had a rather significantly long meeting last time. I just want to just give you some of the highlights. They had like 46 consent agenda items that they passed. But I want to lay out, we did talk about the shortfall in the school and what their plans are to try to move up the completion of the North Star Elementary School by 1 year, and looking at those both options of putting new FFE in or tearing down the old building and using old equipment. So that's apparently this has already been done. They had their organizational meeting. Chairperson is now Bill Addy. Vice Chair is Mr. Yuhan. Clerk is Brandy Lodiger. Election of Treasurer is Nicole Calvert-Dahl. And the election of the alternate clerk is Lisa Westby. They set salaries of the Board of Directors at $250, $275, at $200, and plus $100 for meetings. They have the official newspaper of the Mesaba Daily News moving forward. They approved their finance information in that regard. The big item is item 206. They call section 206 of their contract about how they address their public speaking. They're still making a determination on how that's going to work. Mr. Don Ramos from the Duluth Monitor gave a presentation regarding the difficulties that they see in being able to speak at a school board meeting. The requirement is you have to fill out an online application, provide some personal information, give the information about the topic that you want to speak about, and then it has to be done with 24 hours in advance, and you're limited to 3 minutes on the podium to speak. And so they were looking at that policy. I don't think they've made a decision on that moving forward. They did talk about the Orthopedic Associates project. It's going to be constructed in the old ERATS building, about 10,950 square feet for a new facility there. There are many other things with respect to this, but I think I'll hold that in abeyance till they get some clarification at their next board meeting. So that's kind of what happened at the Rockridge School Board meeting 2 weeks ago. So that's all I have. Any other committee liaison report? Seeing none, we'll move to item 11, department head reports. Do we have any department heads that want to give a report? Britt, do you have anything?
I don't think so. Thank you, though.
Okay, Mr. Lindsay, anything to bring forth this evening?
No report, Mayor.
No report. Pam, do you have anything you want to disseminate? No, thank you. Anything from the library director? You're good to go? Okay, thank you. We'll move to council reports. Does any city councilor have a report they'd like to give this evening? Councilor Beyondich.
I have received some correspondence from a citizen that I would like to be put on our committee of the whole agenda. It is concerns with the parking around the Rockridge High School campus for safety issues, limited visibility, compounded by snowbanks that push the parking further into the street, and some cars parked well beyond the sidewalk. So I have the letter. I also have photos that they submitted, so I will pass these along, and we will have these at our committee of the whole for discussion.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
Okay. Lastly, tomorrow morning early. I'll be leaving early for the legislature for Legislative Action Day, and I'll be meeting with our lobbyist, the Jerrican Associates, Representative Lizagard, and others about the one item that we really want done, and that is exemption of our bond limit in order to accomplish the goals and objectives of making sure that we can build our public safety building, and a few other issues with respect to funding. So I'll be going down there tomorrow morning, and I'm not sure if I'll be staying overnight or a couple of days. It depends on the schedule of the legislative schedule moving forward. Councilor Johnson.
Mayor, Britt, we need to talk about the airport request that was emailed out. Would you take the lead on that, please?
Yes, I will. Thank you for reminding me. The Airport Authority met yesterday to discuss the two capital improvement projects they're working on at the airport. You'll have to help me fill in the blanks here. One of them is a barrier removal. They're trying to take down some trees.
We need to take some trees that are
down.
flying into the approach that is, it's a mandate by FAA or MnDOT's version of the FAA.
That's aeronautic program. Yep.
Yep.
So we need to get those done. The timing of that needs to be done before the end of February, before the bats go to roost. Because once they go to roost, you can't do it until August. So the Airport Authority really needs to get moving on this. So what they're asking of the city of Virginia is if we would be the ones to front the money for their payments. So what happens is they have a grant, they have two grants, one from IRRR and one from the MnDOT. The contractor does the work, the contractor submits the payment, they have to follow the 30-day guideline that you have to pay your bills in 30 days, or else you are violating government standards and you get it's a knock on your audit. The grant money won't be in until 45 to 60 days. So there's a 30-day swing that they need assistance in covering that grant. They're not asking us to pay it. They have all the money to pay for this. They just need us to cover that swing between the time that they pay the bill to the time that the grant money comes in.
And when we have that capability to do
At
so.
this moment, this time of year is a good time for us to do that.
Okay, very good. Yep, thank you. Councilor Johnson, then back over to Councilor Freely. Councilor Johnson.
And since the reorganization of the board of the airport, we are actually making money. We have money. It's sitting there. What we want to avoid is the practice of writing a check, saying we paid it, and holding the check. We can't do that. So it's a cash flow issue. If we write the check, we don't have the money to pay the bills because we have to wait for it to be reimbursed. So this is something that happens regularly with grants. So we're not asking for money this year, right now, for this project. We just need the ability to pay the bill, and then the grant reimburses and the money comes back.
And I don't want to belabor the fact of why, the city of Virginia is funding money and not the case at Evans Virginia Airport. We have the capability of doing that.
Right.
We're going to be reimbursed for it. It just makes sense to move the project forward. Councilor Johnson.
And as Britt said, it's a very timely matter. They don't have their next city council meeting till February 7th. And if we approve that tonight at this meeting, we can call the contractor and authorize, and it's contingent upon acceptance or receiving the grant from the state as well. So there's several contingencies built in that if we don't get the grant, we're not doing the project. So the city won't be held liable for it if we don't get the grant, but the state is willing to move on this very quickly because it's one of their mandates and it is a huge safety concern. And as we move forward, we're going to be the commission will be looking at how do we prevent from having this be an emergency. The initial grant request was for we thought it cost about $150. It ended up coming in at $600 and some $1,000 from a firm in Wisconsin, and so we did our engineers did some work and found a local place that can do it for the $200 and some $1,000. So we've done our work on this, and we're at the point where we need to, otherwise the airport, there could be more expensive challenges in the future by not moving forward with this.
And there's no 10% match at all for that. Okay, thank you. Councilor Freely, do you have something else?
Councilor Johnson pretty much covered what I would have added anyhow. And the only issue I had was, like, if you're doing this with the reimbursement process with gaps within, would it jeopardize our cash flow for potential pending bills we would have doing daily business in the city of Virginia. I've been told that's not necessarily the case.
Not at this, if it's in the next 30 to 60 days. We get our tax apportionate money at the end of December, beginning of January. So we have our levy funds right now. When it gets closer to our other levy funds, which are in the beginning of July, usually at June is where we have cash flow cash flow tightness. Right now is an ideal time. And the other great advantage is the airport secretary is our employee. So we know she's not going to forget to pay us, but they're going to give us the money expeditiously when they get
There
it.
is no jeopardy in this.
No.
Very little.
Very, very little.
Right.
And the city of Evelyn just doesn't have the capacity as we do. Their meetings are very much farther apart than ours are. We meet more regularly. It's just easier for us to do it.
Thank you.
Yeah, thank you. That's a good partnership we have, huh? So it's been moved and supported. Further discussion, Counselor Johnson?
Going to make the motion.
Oh, I'm sorry. I'll make the motion.
I will
I
make a
was
motion
premature.
that the city of Virginia support the airport contingent upon receiving of the grant from MnDOT to move forward with the obstruction removal project.
Moved by Counselor Johnson and supported by Counselor Freelieb. Is there any further discussion? Hearing and seeing none, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye, opposed? Motion carries. Thank you.
Thank
Mayor,
you.
Sorry, I do have one more item. I'm sorry.
Yeah,
I
please.
did forget to bring up that we are taking applications for the Community Development Coordinator to January 27th. So if I could have the council appoint a committee for the interviews, that would be appreciative.
Okay, for the committee planning, do we know when those interviews will be done? We don't yet, do
No,
we?
when you set the committee, then we'll have the,
Okay, so we can have up to, well, we should have 2 counselors, right?
up to 3 is what the
Up to 3?
personnel policy says.
With
or the
with
hire
the,
policy.
with the written notice, right, or whatever. We don't need to, it's not a,
Yes, it is a meeting, open meeting.
it's open meeting.
We do a
Okay.
notice for it. Yes.
Okay, thank you. So, looking for volunteers to serve on the committee for the planning director interviews. Counselor Freelieb, you have volunteered to serve? Or you did? Okay.
That's
And
will I.
and Counselor Johnson? Anyone else? Bueller? Bueller? Anyone? Well, if nobody else wants to serve, Counselor Beyondich. Okay, well, Counselor Paulson, would you be willing to serve? And in the event that nobody else can serve, I'll serve as the alternate.
That, I would agree
Would
to that.
that be all
Thank
right?
you.
Okay, so we're looking for a motion to appoint Counselor Johnson, Counselor Paulson, and Counselor Freelieb as a part of the interview committee for the planning director position. Moved by Counselor Beyondich. Is there support?
I'll support.
By Counselor Motley. Further discussion? So it's to, and then I'll serve as the alternate in the event someone can't play. So moved and supported. Is there any further discussion? Hearing and seeing none, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye, opposed? Motion carries. Thank you. Okay, anything else that anybody has that wants to come before the council meeting this evening? Seeing none, we will adjourn to our next council meeting, which is Tuesday, February 14th, Valentine's Day, 2023, at 5:30 PM. We stand adjourned. Thank you.